Hello, hello, welcome to Beyond the Lines. My name is Sarah, I'm the artist behind Pinselgeschichten and I'm working some more in the Outlander coloring book this week. Bringing some things together. So, excuse me. So I finished the whole lower shelf and this plant here on the table with colored pencils, and then I move on to Tombow markers, and I'm going to talk to you about why I chose that medium for the background of the shelves, how I work with getting around the candle and being a little lighter in hue, and I hope you enjoy. Let's keep on coloring, shall we? So I think I want to fill in the bottles and boxes and such of this shelf here today before I move down to the table and then bring the shelf itself together. So let's go in with the colors for the words. Gosh, help. Let's go in with the colors, not throwing them away, please. For this part here first, so I'm starting with a spoon with my yellow ochre and burnt ochre, because this is wood. And in the previous videos I had already mentioned the light source. The main light source is down here, so lower left, so there's maybe like a fireplace right here. So I'm shading towards the right-hand side, the upper right-hand side, and I'm having all the pencils I ever used on this page with me sorted, and I try to choose only from those when it comes to determining, well, what is my next color here. So I want to have a bit of a warm gray maybe. So I have to find, yeah, there's my warm grays. So I got 2 warm grays and this beige sienna, and that is what I want to use on that bowl here. So I'm just gonna base coat it with my pencil. And if you hear background noise like somebody walking, that's my dear roommate. He's home because it's Saturday that I'm filming this. Just like the previous week, I'm actually filming back to back. And he sometimes very quietly walks through the living room here, because this is where I film. Going in with my dark gray. And I'm going over both of the colors that I used with my dark gray here. Just as always, I'm using circles or ovals when I color, so I move my pencil in that way to get a rather smooth result. And I'm blending the 2 colors together on the respective parts of the bowl. And another thing that I very often say in videos, I think I didn't say it on the last video, but I do it again now, turn your paper. Just for you to work as comfortably as possible. So I do have these pea-shaped items here in a bottle. Again, I had them on the shelf above. So I'm gonna shade them the same way I did before, which is base coating with lime peel. Going on top with moss green. And adding a little blue indigo on top just to enhance my shadows, make it pop a little. You don't have to write down the pencils in case this is the first video that you are ever watching. First of all, welcome to the channel. I'd love for you to consider to subscribe if you want to see art videos, board game videos, podcasts, and vlogs. You can peruse the channel. I would love for you to have a look around. But I do write all of the supplies that I ever use on an art video. I'm writing them down, having them compiled at a blog post for every respective video. By the way, taking a dark brown for the bottle caps here. And you can find that in the description box below. There's a link to my webpage, pinselgeschichten.de, and if you happen to stumble across this video a while after this has been released, just go to my webpage, click on the search bar and enter the video name without the Beyond the Lines, but just the Surgeon's Room part. I think this is 4. And you will be led to the respective blog post right away. So I do have a compilation there of all the supplies I use, so you just can read up. You don't have to sit here with a notepad and write everything down. I do have an empty bottle here, so I'm going to disregard that for now because I will take care of all of that. You've seen I have most of the bottles not colored all the way. I will take care of that once I have colored in the background. So for this next bottle here, I want a little bit of a light blue for whatever powder is down here, or whatever settled down there, because there's liquid on top. And then I need my periwinkle pencil to add a little bit of shading on top. Blend these two together. And then I'm taking a very light gray. This is, and it's a cool gray, 20% for the liquid on top. And I'm gonna shade it with another color that I already used. Which one am I gonna take? What are you? Putty beige, and you're too light, so I'm gonna take the putty beige. Just want a very light shadow on the right. A little more periwinkle down here. There we go. Then I do have this tumbler here. It doesn't say that it's see-through, so I'm not gonna color it see-through. I do want, what do I want? Let's look at the whole page maybe. maybe a greenish tone, because I'm not gonna use a lot of green. Maybe here on the books, but not necessarily. So I'm just gonna use my artichoke, also vomit color. Sorry about that bad pun, it just reminds me of what could very well be vomit colored. But let's go with artichoke, it's way more pretty. Bringing that in. And instead of going with the green on top, which I usually do, I'm gonna choose a brown tone. Oh no, that's a red. Wrong pencil. I'm just gonna go with chocolate. And shade it with that so it looks old and worn and such, you know. And now I can go on top with my artichoke pencil again and blend the two colors together. Now that I've blended, I can go in with details. So there's like a pattern here. So I'm going to shade that towards the left, making it look like things like depth. Oh gosh, talking. Oh boy. So these arches here sit on top, and that's why I shade them to the right. Oh boy, I'm sorry about my brain not being able to talk really well. So there is a tiny little bit of greenery up here. So I'm going to take, put the pencils in the wrong jar. I'm gonna take the, what was it called? Pale Sage to color these. Haven't used it in the lower shelves, and I haven't really used it a lot on some liquids like up here and on this powder up here, but I haven't really used it a lot, so I can bring it back in and use my indigo on top to shade. Just makes for an interesting color. And another color I haven't used very much, and that stands out against all of this brown and green and gray, is a hot pink. So I'm going to use that for these tiny little berries up here, and it's actually called Process Red. Now I can move on to the next shelf. Colors for my books. Let's start with the easy things first. There's a bit of yarn, so I'm gonna take my putty beige to color that. And I'm gonna bring in a warm gray, which is a French gray 70%, to shade. Oh, and I hardly have any battery anymore on my vlogging camera, so I'm gonna skip this video for it and get a battery later for recording the opener to this video that you've actually already seen. All right, blending these two top colors together. And I think I want to use these colors and maybe the 50% French gray on another section, and that is this book here. So I'm going to start with the light putty beige color, using that here and also on the pages up above that you can see, using my second darkest color for the rest of the book. And my darkest French gray for shading. Going over my first layer of color again. I need a little more here. I think I need a little bit of a darker tone, so I'm going to take the French gray 90%. Just to add a little more oomph. That was loud, I'm sorry. That's something that you will learn the more you color something. There's colors where you, and just smaller items where you just need two colors, one light one, one dark one. And then there's colors where you need maybe 3 or 4 shades. So I'm gonna take, no, that's the wrong one. Just looking through my pencils here. Want to have a bit of a rosy colored, like these shades here, or the book, like the base color. Want to use that on this book here. Just to not always go with the old brown, red, green, gray, blue kind of books. But I will add a tiny bit of indigo, just really a smidge here on this side. Just to indicate a little bit of wear and tear. And with my sand colored pencil to just color those pages up above. I will also use the sand color on this part here. And there's my burnt ochre, there it is. Then this will be a brown book. Because let's face it, it was the most common book color back in the days, you know. Going on top with my tiny espresso pencil. You've seen me struggle sharpening that in the last video. Blending that out with my burnt ochre? Yeah, burnt ochre. And then I'm going to color those pages up here with the sand color and go in with sunburst yellow to very slightly shade those labels here. Just tiny little bit, not too much. There we go. Now I have to take care of the bottles. I think this should be a light blue or, yeah, a light blue liquid. So I'm taking, oh no, I'm gonna change things up a bit maybe. So these are my preferred colors for this particular bottle here, but maybe I need a little bit of periwinkle to put in the darkest shadows. We'll see. But first, I'm gonna just give it a cloud blue base coat. Going on top with my turquoise with a super light touch. And I don't need the periwinkle. It's just, ooh, wrong pencil. Ooh. That was almost a mistake. So now I can bring in these two colors, blend things together. There we go. Rest of the bottle I'm gonna disregard for now. I will take care of that later. Think I want a little bit of the cream colored, very light liquid here. And I'm gonna shade it with my sand color, so really just the lightest liquid, very light yellow. And where's my ginger root? There it is. I'm taking ginger root for these other two bottles here. I'm gonna shade them with yellow ochre. Might need a little more of my sand colored pencil here just to, yeah, that's more like it. Just intensifying the shadowy part, the contrast, just upping the contrast pretty much. For the bottle caps in this shelf, I'm gonna take my moss green. So I think I haven't used green bottle caps yet, did I? Nope. So it's about time to use that. There we go. And I have a little bit of a pink pigment here that I don't want, so getting rid of that. The final shelf. Yoo-hoo! Yippee! Yeah, and then the tedious part will start soon, like shading this, but I'm gonna start with my box here, though. Where's my espresso pencil? I just used it, right? There it is. There we go. And then I need my sand color and what's it called? Mineral orange. So I'm using that on the key lock thing part. Words. Ay, ay, ay. Shading it with a little bit of mineral orange. Blending blending everything together with my sand color. Now I can color the rest of the box, and for that I'm taking burnt ochre, just like with those boxes up here. So same thing. And now for the chocolate shading. Bringing the two of them together. And I'm not shading as dark down here because again the light comes from the lower left hand side, so the shadows aren't as pronounced as they are with the upper shelves and the boxes that live on those shelves. A little more. And I do have the espresso pencil with me to work on the wood grain. So I'm just going over some of those lines, enhancing the pattern, making those lines a little more visible. Like so. Now next to it, I thought I hadn't used my very light purple in a while, and I haven't used the darker purple. So I'm just going to add a little bit of periwinkle And I'm going to color that powder. Adding a little bit of periwinkle on top. And then my violet with a super light touch. And then blending things together with my great lavender. Now there's like a bottle cap on top, which I want to use French Gray 90% on. And then there's like a ribbon and almost like, I don't know, some cloth underneath. So I'm taking my sand colored pencil here and my golden rod pencil to color that in. And for the ribbon, what do I want? I think want a bit of a greenish gray tone. So that is jade green. Oh. I'm gonna put a bit of gray on top, this 70% cool gray. Something like that. Now I've got a few vials here, and then I can look at my clock and yay, I can keep on coloring maybe the table or those flowers underneath. Like not underneath, but those flowers here. But there's still a little time. But first, I'm gonna use the same gray for the bottle caps, for all of them. And for the liquids, what do I want? I think I want a little bit more of the bright yellows. So I'm just gonna take sunburst yellow and yellow ochre and color these liquids. And there's hardly gonna be any shadings, like really very minor. And for that I'm gonna take golden rod or, no, the mineral orange. Or even, no, haha, pumpkin orange. Pumpkin orange is a little more on the vibrant oomph side, almost a brownish orange, like very close to terracotta. I think that works nicely. So these are the bottles. Now, onto the table and the flowers there. What colors do I want? I want to use colors that I've already used. So I'm gonna take the lemon peel. I'm going to take moss green. Gonna take indigo. I need some sand for the paper underneath. A goldenrod for the paper underneath, and a little bit of burnt ochre. And then for the flowers, I definitely want the periwinkle. And I think that very light grade lavender. So these are the colors that I'm going to use. Put it up to the center of the frame. I'm gonna start with the paper underneath that flower slash herb, starting with my light tone. Going around all of the blossoms and the stems and the leaves. And for now, just base coating where I need those colors to go. Then I can go in with my light green. And base coat all of my leaves and stems. And by just taking care of the initial base coat, like the lightest color, on a given area, like where you might lose a detail or forget to color something, I find that quite helpful to just go in and base coat the areas and then take care of shading later, and not go bit by bit by bit by bit, have all the layers incorporated and then move on to the next section. So especially when it comes to those intricate, very tiny pieces, just like these herbs here. I think they're herbs, or just flowers maybe. What do you think? Let me know. Did I get all the light green ones? I think so. So I'm going in with my grade lavender. color all the blossoms. Really gotta concentrate here. It's difficult to talk at the same time because I don't wanna miss a part. Did I get everything? Yeah, I think so. So now I'm gonna reverse color, which just means I'm going over the blossoms again, then the stems, and then I'm gonna bring in the shadows for the paper. So I'm just adding a tiny little bit of periwinkle in the center of the blossoms in case they're open, or at the lower part in case they're closed. It's not much, it's just a tiny little bit of color here to add a little more contrast and interest, and such. There we go. Can put away the color for my blossoms. Now I gotta sharpen my moss green. I'm not going over all of the bits and pieces here because I want the lime green still to peek through. But on some parts I just want to have a little bit of a darker color, and that is where I put my moss green on top. That's enough already. And now just very carefully introduce a little bit of indigo. Need to sharpen my pencil. And I can feel myself already having my big old head in frame, so I'm sorry about that. When it comes to these tiny items, and I do have a couple of videos under my belt already on a given day, my eyes do sometimes not focus that well, and then I tend to lean in, which doesn't really help, I know. But nonetheless, I still do it. Weird person that I am. So I'm mainly shading the stems, or just where I think to be very dark spots on a leaf. something like that. And now for my papers underneath. Just going on top with my goldenrod. And that is why I reverse colored, meaning I shaded my plants first. The paper can't really take a lot of pigment anymore, so I can go on top of things with my goldenrod and they won't be colored with it. So it's just a little easier when shading around very intricate pieces. I can go on top with my burnt ochre, just the lightest touch. Something like that. Now at this point the question is, what do I want to do with the background? Because I think I would pretty much apply the same thing also on the table. So I was thinking maybe Tombow markers and then shade on top. But I probably would lose quite a bit of detail on the bottles. So maybe I'm just, because it's going to be tedious to shade the whole thing with color pencils only. But maybe that is what I have to do. So I'm going to think, I'm going to think about that for a hot second. And with the magic of editing, I'm not gonna make you wait for my decision. Okay, so I've been thinking for a bit now, and I want a few Tombow markers. This one here, the 977. The 897 and the 992. You might ask why I chose 3 colors, because I do have a highlight here with the candles, so I will only use those 2 colors here. And the rest will be just colored with the dark color around it. And maybe I do, no, I was just thinking if I wanted a different color here on those shelves, but I don't. I'm gonna shade on top of the very dark brown with the color pencils later on. And I'm gonna use a watercolor, a water brush for this shelf here to blend these 3 colors together. So what I'm gonna do now is do the tedious work and color in the shelves. I did choose the Tombow markers because they have this very fine bull tip end, and they have the brush end. My Faber-Castell Pit Brush pens, the name says it, only has the pit brush part, like that kind of tip, and that is not something that I want for coloring all around those tiny little bits that are in the shelf. Just going around the items for now. I'm going to show you a tiny little trick of how to use that same pen on the bottles. The trick is using water, but that's not for now. Just really going in solid with my marker for now. Because those bottles are a little lighter, but they pick up the color that is behind it. So by just adding a little water, you can actually use the same color but not have it as intense as with just the plain marker going on top of the paper. You can play with that. Concentrate, Sarah. Just take your time and go slowly around it. You could, maybe it's a little easier for you to, once you know what you want to do, to just color the background, which is what I usually do. But this time around I wasn't sure, so that is why I waited until now what I wanted to do for the back of these shelves. And I recommend you have a cardstock behind your page if you're working in a coloring book, because there could be a little bit of ghosting or bleed through. Ooh. Bumped against the vlogging cam, that's not helpful. Trying to go around all these tiny bits is a little tedious, I gotta say. Maybe I'm just going to time-lapse that part because it's pretty much the same thing now. So enjoy a little bit of music and see me color all the background, and then I will end the video because I forgot to check at what time I actually started with the break, thinking about, okay, am I gonna go with the tombos? What do I want to do? How can I manage with that candle? It was maybe like 10 minutes, but yeah, I forgot to look. So the time lapse might actually help with keeping this video still at a reasonable length. So now I'm gonna stop talking and you can enjoy the music.
When there was
So this is the final shelf, and now I'm gonna show you my nifty trick. So I'm putting all of the pens that I'm going to use here on this palette. I'm gonna start with my lightest color, pick that up, and just put that here around the flame where the lightest bits would be. Gotta be careful with the glasses and such. I'm moving on to my next color. And actually I can go behind that bottle here, I can bring that in. And then I can bring in my darkest color, also pick that up with a brush. Up a little lighter one to put that here. Now at this point I'm just picking up the rest of the pigment, like from the star color from my palette, and then I will bring in the dry brush on top of it. So that's enough. I'm quickly gonna dry this off, and then I'm gonna bring in my dark brown marker to finish this part of the shelf. There we go. So now I can bring in my dark pen here. Color around my books. Down on the shelf. Now I'm going to feather this in, and then I'm gonna pull the pigment with my brush a tiny bit, bring this together, make it smooth, you know. Something like that. Onto my brush. This is how you can work dry and wet with the same supply and work quite well on these shadows here. I'm gonna pick up a little more of the brown from my palette. Just to feather out some of these lines here. Just make a very smooth transition from dark to light. There we go. That actually ends the video for today. I hope you enjoyed watching along, coloring along maybe, in case you're working on the same page. I want to see photos, so please send them to me. There's lots of ways on social media that you can contact me, and I'm gonna see you next week when I work on this page some more and get it finished. So questions, comments, comment section below as per usual, and thanks again for watching. Bye.